Call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 25th, 2025 regular scheduled Port Clinton City Council meeting in the Linda Hart Lab Chambers at Port Clinton City Hall. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection for those reflecting and serving.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Beth Gilman.
Present.
Margaret Phillips.
Present.
Richard Morgan.
Here.
Avery Robinson.
Here.
Pat Hovis. Here. Jerry Trolley.
Present.
Kathy King.
Yes, here. Sorry.
Thank you, Council. You previously received the February 11, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Have a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam President, I move for the approval of the minutes of February 11th.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Trolley to approve the February 11th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. The chair notes that certification has been made regarding the compliance with the rules and notifications of this meeting. We have no guest presentation. We have no public comments. Move on to executive officers' reports. Council, this evening, there's a new ordinance number 9-25. It's on for its first reading. Administration has asked that it be passed on its first reading, and I believe Ms. Schenker will talk about that to explain that a little further. Also, we have second reading on ordinance 5-25 and 4-25. Administration has asked that it be passed this evening. If council so chooses, the police department has to get tickets and stuff ordered, so it's kind of a time-sensitive thing at this point. And that is all I have. Move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, members of council. Hope all enjoyed this lovely weather. It's amazing how 48 degrees feels wonderful in February, but horrible in September. Just a personal observation and an update on the county water project going through town. They're off of Madison Street. However, Madison Street is still closed because there's still a lot of staging going on. They've made that corner, and they're now working in the 100 block of East 3rd Street. I found that out today when I tried to go to lunch at a la carte. 3rd Street, that block is also closed for the next couple of days. I don't know a time frame as when they'll pass Jefferson, but just keep in mind that it's moving down the road. Late yesterday afternoon, it was discovered that there was a sewer line break, of all things, at the intersection of 5th and Madison. That's been closed a good part of the day for construction, and Mr. I almost said Trolley because I saw you. Mr. Colston just got word that it is fixed but not complete, so they'll come back tomorrow to put the final touches on that one. Moving right along with our utility discussion, tomorrow Lakeshore Drive, the First Energy is going to be coming out to move the power lines from the north side of the road to the new poles on the south side of the road. All of the residents in that area have been notified with a telephone message saying that they will be without power for a good part of the day. And there will also be 2 times where there'll be about a 10-minute outage for folks outside of that as they energize the new lines. That doesn't mean that the poles are going to come out immediately. The other utilities that are down there still need to come to move their wires from the north side to the south side. We had a meeting earlier today with a representative from First Energy. He wasn't able to give us a timeline as to when those other utilities will be moving, but they have been notified they do need to be moved. And then once they are moved, the poles on the north side of the road will go bye-bye. This is the second month in a row that the utility department had to estimate water sewer readings for a good part of town because of weather. So check your bill. Again, if they're able to read next month, and hopefully the weather will be cooperative, you may see adjustment up or down based on the estimated use from the previous months. At the last city council meeting, during the question and answer time period, something must have rubbed off on Mrs. King, because Jerry wasn't here, and she asked the question. She asked if, with everything happening in Washington D.C., if there was anything happening with the infrastructure project or the other things happening in town with funding. And at that time, there wasn't. And I don't know if that was a jinx. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Chrisman received word that the grant the city received for taking down trees and other forestry-related items throughout the city had been suspended. He'll go into a little bit more. It doesn't mean the money's gone away. We were able to get most of what needed to be done in this time period, and the billing process worked out, but that has taken a hiatus. And if you have any questions, Mr. Chrisman can fill you in on that. The hope is that those funds will be re-energized here sooner rather than later. Yesterday I had an opportunity as mayor. I am automatically on the steering committee for the National Rifle and Pistol matches, along with representatives from the U.S. Army, including a 2-star general who sat right next to me, the board of directors of the Civilian Marksmanship Program, officers from Camp Perry, County Commissioner Koppler, and representatives from Mr. Latta, Congressman Latta, and Congresswoman Kapter's office were in attendance. A variety of things were talked about, and I just kind of sit there and absorb the information because, you know, I'm just there. In 2024, there were 3,972 competitors that came into the area. The estimated economic impact of just the national matches is about in excess of $32 million. The folks from the Civilian Marksmanship Program talked about all the activities that are happening out there. They now have year-round both indoor and outdoor activities that bring in people from all over the place. Just recently there was a Junior ROTC National Championship the last couple weekends, and the town was full of, you may have seen them out in restaurants and whatnot, of kids from all over the place. A lot of schools from the south come up here so they could see snow. I thought that was kind of interesting in the conversation. Some other things that folks that run Camp Perry talked about, the new happenings out there. They're going to update some of the lodging and add some additional lodging. Update Commercial Row. If you've ever been out there for the national matches, there's an area called Commercial Row where they sell wares. Expand the on-site entertainment. They've added some movie nights and beach parties to try to keep the family atmosphere, to try to bring back the younger folks that come into the area. But the biggest addition to this year's national matches are the addition of a lot of electronic targets. If you've ever been to the Gary Anderson indoor range, you notice that everything downrange is done electronically. The same concept, but with much bigger guns. It'll do a bunch of different things. It'll provide an accurate and more timely scoring for the competitors. It lowers the physical demand of the competitors, and I'll explain that here in a moment. And it opens up a lot more free time for the competitors. And what I mean by that, let's just say that Mrs. Sardi is the range officer. Everyone to her right shoots in the morning. Everyone to her left is out in the targets, out in the pits in the morning, pulling the targets, marking them, doing what they need to do. They take a break for lunch, and then you guys switch positions. So some of the folks are out there from well before sunrise to well after sunset, and it's just a very, very long day, and it's getting taxing for some of the competitors that have been coming for decades. I'll just say it that way. So the hope is that with this new electronic targeting system, it will obviously take some of that burden off of being there all the time. Hopefully we'll bring back some competitors at both ends of the age spectrum and free up additional time. So if you're shooting in the morning, you get your afternoon to come into town per se, or vice versa. So hopefully we'll see that $32 million economic impact jump considerably, along with the number of people coming to the matches as the word gets out about this electronic targeting system. Just a reminder to those in the community that have short-term rental properties, the deadline to renew your certificate is this Friday, the 28th. Contact Sandy. She's been taking calls left and right, most of them from me the past couple of days. 419-734-5522, extension 2, and she will get you what you need. The Easter egg hunt. I know it's a month and a half, 2 months out, but the Easter egg hunt will be on Saturday, April 12th at 10 a.m. at Lakeview Park. The rain date will be the same time on the 19th. And how do you know if it's going to be delayed? Well, if you open up the door and it's pouring down rain, there's a good chance it's going to be delayed. If you pull up to the park and you don't see anybody there, it's going to be delayed. we'll try to also keep the social media that morning up to snuff with everything. Again, that's going to be Saturday, April 12th, 10 a.m. for the Easter egg hunt at Lakeview Park. Ages 0 to
7 and up.
7 and up? Okay, 7 and up. Little update on the Port Clinton 4th of July. As you know, that's near and dear to me. Just got the contract. The same fireworks display that we've had the past couple of years is going to be $17,500. I need to have a deposit of half that amount to the fireworks company. And yes, before you ask, I have checked with they're all in that same ballpark. And the company who's Pyrotechnico has been great to us over the years. But I have to have half that amount to Pyrotechnico by April 1st, and as it stands right now, I'm sitting at $6,033.55. So a little shy of what we need to put down a deposit, and we've got a little over a month to figure that out, and then obviously need to come up with the other half of that to make sure it happens. So if anyone is out there and wants to sponsor the fireworks, I think we'd be happy to say Port Clinton Area 4th of July fireworks sponsored by Jerry Tiroli. Or anyone else that would like to write a check, we'll be happy to accept it. It doesn't necessarily have to be you, but anyone.
No pressure, Jerry, no pressure.
Sponsored by the best English teacher that everybody had, whatever it might be. Also, earlier today, the fire chief, the police chief, and I received an email message from a David Bedlow, B-E-D-D-O-W, Beddow, and I hope I'm not butchering his name. David is the president of the board for the Clinton Reef Club down on Lakeshore Drive. Friday night, about 10:30, Mr. Bedlow found an unresponsive person that he didn't recognize just outside the Clinton Reef Club. He thought the individual was dead. Called 911. Folks responded as they would, but he sent the three of us a very long email, and I just want to read part of it to you, just so you understand here. I just wanted to say that the 2 EMTs and the 2 officers that responded were awesome. Totally professional, knew what they were doing, extremely compassionate, and stayed on it as the victim was taken to the hospital. Earlier today, Chief Scott congratulated the 2 police officers, Officer Amy Pugh and Officer Zach O'Neill, and in about an hour when the fire department meets at 7 o'clock to do their annual or weekly training, the same kudos will be given by Chief Gutman to EMT Jody Brown and Medic Dana Brown for their fine work on that. I know that they always provide that level of service, and I know some of you in this room have had to call in their services, and I just want to make sure the community knows and these folks know how much they are appreciated. So with that, Madam President, unless Mr. Trolley has any questions, that concludes my report.
Yes, I do. Flip, how we doing?
Moving right along.
Okay, are we out for bids yet, or?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
Not quite yet. The anticipation is the end of this quarter. Moving right along.
Okay.
Moving right along.
I don't know, I've got a little information about that call on Friday night. Fortunately, it was my sister-in-law.
Oh.
She was roofied at Bell Mills. She has no idea how she got where she got. She lives there with her son and 2 grandkids at Clinton Reef. I mean, doesn't live there permanently, but she helps her son. But yeah, you gotta be careful, ladies. There's some awful, awful people in this world. And she still has no clue how she got where she got. That's what happened. Thank you.
I have 2 questions, mine are easier. When you say when they replace those poles tomorrow, you say some other areas will lose power. Is that the whole town? Or?
No, just
Okay.
selected areas in that immediate Lakeshore Drive area.
Okay, so.
We're primarily concerned about the sewer plant that will be down for.
Okay, but so on this side of the river, we're probably okay.
There'll be a few spots, but nothing.
Okay. And finally, electronic scoring, do they still shoot real bullets?
They do, and I asked that same
Yeah,
question.
because you would think it would just, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
so.
there are 4 sensors in each corner that judge the sound. And then the backing, it's metal frame with those sensors protected, and then a rubberized backing that is replaced periodically. They didn't tell me how often, but yeah, I asked that same
Yeah,
question.
because it wouldn't be the same, you know, if you're, yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's his treasury report?
Yeah, through February 10th, excuse me, we have collected $9,015.45 in the bed tax. And on rental registrations, we are currently at $4,100.
Okay.
Do you have an idea of which of those are like new versus like renewing?
I could defer to Sandy,
Okay.
who will help you
All
with
right,
that.
thank you, Sandy.
Currently, I have about 6 brand new ones for the year.
Okay, awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you. Law director.
Thank you, Madam President. With regards to the new ordinance, 9-25, as council, if you remember, you previously passed this very similar ordinance, probably about a month back. After the ordinance was passed, administration decided to change the date of when supervisors were going to receive their uniform allowance. So I believe it went from the one you originally approved, said April 1st. They wanted to make it in line with what the unions do when they get theirs. So changed it to February 1st. Since the ordinance was passed, the ordinance needs to be repealed, the one that was previously passed, and then this new one would just need to be passed on its first read or whatever, because once an ordinance is passed by council, it can't be amended. So the old ordinance would need to be repealed, and then this new one would be passed, and that's basically to correct the typo on the date. And I'm not sure if Ms. Osheimer has the number for the old ordinance.
Nope.
But there would need to be a motion to do that.
Is that just
I think
because it's this year?
Double
Because,
check, see if I can figure it out.
you know, we've never done that, I've never done that before, so like, you know, like normally we're changing wording, right? So like, why would we have to repeal it?
So once it's passed
Uh-huh.
and everybody signs it and the mayor signs it, you can't change it
For a time period or? for-
forever.
Once it's adopted.
Once it's adopted, you can't change
It kind of makes
it.
sense, once it's a law.
I know, but it doesn't make sense to me because
Because
like,
we amend stuff.
we pass ordinances all the time where we change it.
Well, no, they're actually changed first, then passed. This was passed on a first reading where, I don't know, the conversation took place afterwards. But once it's adopted and passed, it becomes a law, and it can't be just amended. It needs to be, the old one, we just need to make go away, and the new one appear,
Okay.
if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
if you think about it, once we pass it, we never see it again, so anything we're changing, it means it's between the first and second or something.
But,
You know.
but we are amending, so we're actually amending the code, and it says, have like amending chapter 139.
Yeah.
So we are amending within the order, but we're
Right.
not actually the actual ordinance number, like 7-25.
Okay,
whatever it is.
so
That's
it's-
what it is.
That's why I didn't understand the
Yeah,
difference.
that's-
I just wanted to understand.
So
It's
the
like-
I
old
think
one,
that's-
we just have to
Okay.
strike out and kind of just do it as a brand new.
So this isn't in the code where we're like just saying like we're changing the code, right? This is amending an ordinance.
This is, right, it's the ordinance that you passed about a month ago. And the only change in that ordinance, is the date. The ordinance was initially stated, an ordinance amending chapter 139. You know, the exact same, everything's exactly the same, the only difference is that date.
That's why I have your confusion too, like,
Yeah.
why do we have to repeal it if we're just actually changing?
We're,
I-
yeah, because
I
we're still
understand
amending
what you're
it, so
saying.
that's where my brain is broken.
Yeah, I
It's
see
like,
what
it
you're
doesn't-
saying.
Doesn't compute.
I'm on the same page.
Okay,
I get
it's
that.
not just me. All right.
No,
Is
it's
that
not
the
just you.
February 1st date that's being changed?
It's
From
changed
April to February.
Okay.
And then also, as Ms. Sardi stated at the beginning, the two ordinances that deal with the parking tickets. There was a lengthy conversation at the last meeting about that. I know that the police department does want to start ordering the tickets and getting that new process going. So it would be nice if you'd like to pass it on the second read. If not, we can wait for the third, but they do want to get that process going.
Well,
That's all
I
I
mean,
have.
I do have a question about that, like, am I allowed to ask a question about that right now? Okay, so like, I mean, the printing in itself, like, I mean, we're not, like, the ticket prices don't go on the envelope, that's like, The ticket is something they can change.
The
Right.
ticket prices do go on the envelope, so they know what to pay when they receive the ticket. Right now, it's just, so right now, the way it stands is they have, it's a yellow envelope, and that
Right.
is the ticket. So they write on the envelope, and they, put the information on the envelope, handwritten, but the ticket prices are at the very bottom, which indicates, if you pay within 10 days, it's so much. If you pay within
Okay, because
whatever.
the police department told me they were changing the way they do
They
the
are
tickets. So like that they're actually printing out a ticket to put in the envelope.
They are doing that, but they are printing them out, but it's a program they're using. This isn't something they did before. So they're using a new program, and in order to use that program, they need to get it started up, put everything in there with the new prices of the tickets.
Right.
And then the envelopes are just gonna be, I believe, standard envelopes that they're going to.
Okay, so they're not putting the prices on envelopes, it's about like the ticket.
It's gonna be on, but it's going to be on the ticket itself.
Yes, so the ticket goes, we're doing a different process than we did before.
Yes, it's
Okay.
hopefully will be cheaper, but we're not sure.
Okay, and that ordinance number was 2-25. The council chooses.
It's for,
2-25 was the read.
The one you're reading.
oh, the one that we were reading.
Okay.
I'm so confused.
Sorry,
I'm so
I jumped back, I jumped backwards.
Kathy.
I jumped backwards.
Just go along with us.
All right, that's trying to follow.
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for the law director? Okay, Mr. Colson.
I did meet with Republic. They will go to the end of the year. So then, as Ms. Shanker explained the last time, we'll start looking at that, this summer. And I believe it was $25.40 per month. It was about an increase of $1.12. And that's what they had given us for that 3-year option, and we only took the 1-year option. They did tell us we can go one more 12. That's part of the original contract before my time, but we could still do that if you guys so choose moving forward.
And that $1.12 includes, same
It's the
thing we have
Same
now?
thing, yes. And that's what it was gonna be if we did the 3-year renewal anyways. I double checked that to make sure that it was all the same, so. And that's all I have unless there's other questions.
I have questions. Mr. Colson, have they been better about the roads since you had to
Yep.
talk to them?
Yes, and we worked on some things on Lee Avenue, for example. They're putting them in the road now.
Mhm.
We did have a little bit of a screw up because the people on the west side of the road have more trouble taking them to the east side of the road. So they're sending a new letter out to put them all on the west side of the road. That will keep them off the curb line and everything else. They can go down, they can't make the turn in the cul-de-sac and go right out. So it'll be one down, one back, that's it. No more backing down, no more of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So as far as I know, yes, obviously we'll check the roads and out in area gardens and stuff after all the weather clears and make sure of what's going on. But yes, so far it's been,
Okay, second. And then, do you know when spring cleanup is?
yes, I do. You probably do off the top of
Sorry, I
your
didn't hear Cody.
Yeah,
20,
just totally, I think,
12, 19, 26, I want to say.
I want to say 26 also, just a moment.
Okay.
Should be April, 2 Saturdays from Easter, I count, because the next one, I know that's the day.
April 26th?
Yes.
Awesome.
The other way. And you don't put them
April 26 is correct.
Thank you. Those are my two
And
questions.
then like a week later, so don't do it that way.
I become the new chair.
I always put them.
It's gonna go away for a week,
Just call
Jerry.
me Trolley Jr.
You
The cemetery cleanup is March 15th, so
March
keep that
15th?
in mind too. I think that's a weekend if I'm not mistaken, so it'll probably be Monday that we get to it, so. So then by the following weekend, you should be able to put your legal items back on the graves.
All right, good to know. Okay, thank you. Move on to city staff reports. Mr. Christman.
Thank you, Madam President. I have some good news with grant funding. We were awarded the Park District's Parks and Trails grant. That's $45,000. That'll go towards the addition of a splash pad and waterworks park. I do have some poor news for grant funding. The Fund from the U.S. Forest Service via American Forest has been suspended as of February 20th. They're no longer processing any reimbursement payments for any actions associated with that grant funding. They did notify us probably about 10 days prior to the suspension of funding, and we were able to deploy resources to effectively fix all of the hazardous trees that have been identified throughout the city. So the initial phase for the whole program was to remediate hazardous conditions around the city. We were able to successfully do that. Unfortunately, the subsequent parts of the program, hiring an urban forester, developing a planting schedule, actually replanting trees around the city, as of now, those efforts will have to wait. The program itself is still active. It has 3 more years associated with it, so if funding becomes available between now and then, American Forest will send out another notice unsuspending funds, and at that time we can solicit services and submit for reimbursement. But right now we have a stop work notice, so only work completed up to February 20th is open for submission for reimbursement. The reimbursement schedule will maintain, so the current work that we've had completed for the first quarter of 2025 will be submitted at the end of March and will be reimbursed sometime in April, most likely. So we hit almost $200,000 in services for tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, and hauling. We did tackle quite a bit, and I can have those specific numbers for you next meeting with just how many trees we did address and how many issues we did remediate. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Do we know how much funds are left, like if they do resume?
Well, it was nearly $1 million. It was $950,000, so less whatever our current expenditures are, roughly $200,000. So roughly $700,000 plus remaining available when and if grant funds become available.
And we have no idea when we'll find out if they or are not. It could be tomorrow or 6 years from now.
Could be tomorrow or not at all.
Yeah.
Was that part of like a specific act of Congress? Was that from the PACT Act?
It was not. It was from the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act.
Okay. Okay.
That authorized the grant. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause I know a couple of places that are
Was this
doing
one?
lawsuits.
Was this one of Musk's chopping blocks? Or was this something else?
It's an executive order.
Less defined.
It's an executive order.
Executive order.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Finance, Ms. Selvas?
Nothing tonight, Madam President.
Environment and Public Works, Mr. Joy? Thank you. Safety Services, Ms. Phillips?
Nothing different.
Thank you. Economic and Community Development?
Nothing tonight, Madam President.
Thank you. We'll move on to correspondence. Under correspondence, we have the City of Port Clinton's request for 2025 official certificate of estimated resources, City of Port Clinton bank reconciliation for December 31st, 2024, and City of Port Clinton bank reconciliation for January 31, 2025. Does council wish to take any action as to the correspondence?
Madam President, I move we accept the City of Port Clinton bank reconciliation for December 31st, 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Gilman, seconded by Mr. Trolley to accept under correspondence, the City of Port Clinton's bank reconciliation for December 31, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Avery Robinson.
Yes.
Margaret Phillips.
Yes.
Beth Gilman.
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Kathy King.
Yes.
Pat Hovis. Yes. Richard Morgan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Does council wish to take any further action as to the correspondence?
Madam President,
Ms. Gilman.
I move we accept the City of Port Clinton bank reconciliation for January 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Ms. Gilman, seconded by Mr. Trolley to accept the Under correspondence, the City of Port Clinton Bank reconciliation, January 31, 2025. Correspondence. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Pat Hovis. Yes. Kathy King.
Yes.
Beth Gilman.
Yes.
Avery Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Morgan.
Yep.
Jerry Truly.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The bank reconciliation for January 31st, 2025 is hereby accepted. Does council wish to take any further action as to correspondence?
Madam President, I move for the correspondence to be accepted.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Trolley. I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Trolley to accept the correspondence as stated. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Thank you. The correspondence are hereby accepted. So we move on to readings of ordinances and resolutions. We do not have anything under third reading. Under second reading, we have ordinance 4-25 and 5-25. Will the clerk please read by title and summary only, ordinance 4-25.
Ordinance number 4-25, an ordinance amending section 352.99, parking infraction fines of the Port Clinton codified ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action as to ordinance 4-25?
Madam President, I would like to move to waive the third reading of this ordinance.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
I'm not sure if this, can I have like just a little discussion before we move on?
I will ask for discussion.
Okay.
I do on each thing, so. Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. Okay, so the one, like I'm very glad to hear that we're gonna allow for people to pay their parking tickets online. I think that'll make a huge difference. There was a couple things that Chief Scott brought up last time that aren't covered in this ordinance, and I don't know like if they're timely or not, but like what I heard him say and what I heard another police officer say when I talked to them was that one of the main areas that we're incurring these tickets is downtown, people overstaying their welcome. Going off to Put in Bay for the weekend and taking advantage of our parking, which is unacceptable. So like we're not addressing that. I just wanted to bring that up. Like that is something where, I think it has a direct impact on our local businesses. And, I'm wondering if that's something that safety services would consider taking up, looking at as well, because this is only addressing that, the cost of like pursuing tickets. But like, in my mind, I think we want to like make it easier for people to pay tickets, but also we want to punish, well, not punish, like that's not the right word, but we want to deter people from breaking the law to begin with. So I don't know if there's ways that we could, pass something that allows them to be towed after they've been there for a certain amount of time and put up like a tow sign, or something like that to like deter people from breaking that particular law. So like that's just something that I wanted to bring up. And like the only thing that gives me pause about this is that like this process is so new, and I don't I understand why the safety services passed this on and endorsed it. But the process is so new, so like my only pause is like we really don't know the cost to pursue a ticket. So it kind of gives me like, I don't know, cart before the horse kind of thing. Like we're raising the fines, but like we don't even know if that'll cover the cost. So like, it gives me a little pause when voting for this. And so those are the things I wanted to say. Also, there is on the books, like if some individual incurs 3 judgments from us, like we can put a block on their registration, meaning that like, only if they want to transfer that vehicle in the future, or if they want to renew their registration that year, they're unable to do so unless they pay the fines. So there were a couple of things like in there as well. And I would note that it, like for 2023, at least the numbers I was given, it was only 8% of the tickets that went unpaid, which is like not a huge amount. Like the only place I was able to find, like Austin, Texas, 25% unpaid, South Bend, Indiana, 48% unpaid. It's really hard to find that information online. But other than that, fun facts, the Village Council introduced the use of parking meters in 1945. City Council proposed discontinuing the use of parking meters in 1986. So just a fun fact I noted while I was doing
Sorry, if
Yes.
I can reply. So if you look at the ordinance section we're amending, it's 352.99.
Mhm.
There is an entire 352 section that comes before 99.
Yeah. I read the whole
99
thing.
only deals with the infractions, the fines.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's all it deals with. So
I
with
understand
your
that.
question about, you know, towing or putting signs up or doing anything with the downtown area, that would have to go into a different section
No, I understand
than
that.
99s. But once again, we're just here for the increase in the fines.
I understand.
Right, and that's what,
Yes, I understand,
that's what that is.
but what I'm saying is like, you know, like, my point is that like, the things that I typically address at work is I look for the root cause of something. And like, $30 in fines isn't going to change people from breaking that law. $30 in fines isn't going to make it easier for people to pay. So that's where I'm coming from. It's immaterial to me, like what section it came from. I read the whole like 32, like to see what we're doing. You know, I read most of it. So like, I was just looking at other things that we do or can do, like, you know, like I said, after 3 judgments, we have it on the books that we can put a registration block.
And I don't know if you spoke with Mark Anderson, that is almost impossible to do because you need them within a certain period of time and you need the same type of actions. So to date, he has been able to do 0 blocks, despite people having multiple tickets. But it's also irrelevant to this ordinance, all of the other things you're bringing up. This ordinance solely looks at raising the fine to a different portion of, it goes from $20,
No,
I'm sorry, so I understand your discussion. This could be something you could address at a safety services meeting, at a committee meeting, or address with Mr. Colston, or address with the police department. But regards to this ordinance specifically, the only thing we're addressing is raising the amount of the
Right, but I
fine.
can't just talk about that. Like, there are other reasons why that is, and like, the thing that I was bringing up is that, like, it is a new process, and we do not know, like, if the raise-in fees will cover it, right?
Well, right now, they're not covering it, so, you know, we're requesting to have it increased. We're not making a dramatic increase, like I think Mr. Morgan wanted to go from to $300 on a second offense.
I stand by that one.
But
that's
we're making a reasonable increase. This ordinance can be amended again and again if things change. But right now, you know, the only issue on the table for council to approve is the dollar amount. That's the only part we're talking about. And I know Ms. Phillips would probably love to talk with you about the other issues at a safety services meeting. Perhaps, you know, Chief Scott could come. But right now, the only issue is the dollar amount.
I understand that, and I'm not trying to be obtuse. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think we were given, like, the complete amount it takes to pursue a ticket. You know, like, so how do I know that $30 does anything?
Well, I did indicate to you in an email the amount. The $30 is when you pay it within 10 days. It's basically you get a ticket, put on your card.
No, the $30 total. So like, if someone does not pay it within the 90 days, we're raising it $30 total. So like, you know, we don't know how much time it takes to pursue a ticket. You know, so I'm assuming, you know, like, have we factored in like what the costs are really to pursue a ticket?
And I believe I laid that out for you when I gave you the amount of the certified mailing per ticket, the amount of each letter that's sent out, the amount of postage, and the time that it takes for these to be addressed. I think, you know, $90 is a conservative amount per ticket because it does take a lot of labor.
Yeah, that's what wasn't in, the labor wasn't in there, like the amount of court costs that we could recoup wasn't in there.
Well, there are no court costs. Parking violations court is a civil court. So
But to collect them, we have to send them to collections.
The
correct?
only thing we could request at the parking violations court is we're requesting a $15 processing fee, which covers one certified mailing and it covers regular postage. So some of them we've already had to send out to certified mailings, so that's $20 right there. So we're trying to be conservative, but also trying to enforce a problem that is ongoing, and you're looking at it at $30 the cost of it's the third time you didn't pay. So you receive the ticket, you have 10 days to pay. Then a letter gets sent to you, and you have 30 days to pay from there.
Right.
Then you receive another letter, which you have another 30 days to pay. Then you receive the summons, then you get the court
I
date.
understand this, all of this, I really do. What I'm saying is like, you know, like we talked about, like after it goes to there, then we have to send it to municipal court,
Then it
right?
has to be sent to municipal court.
So then like, you know, then it wasn't answered like how much we can recoup from that court versus.
Municipal court can charge their own fees, their own court fees, and I believe Chief Scott indicated to you that the city receives very little from what they charge for their own fees.
But that was for criminal, like this would be small.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
They still take out their percentage of fees for all cases. For civil, for criminal, they take out whatever their court costs are.
Right, and if I go file a civil suit as myself, like I can recoup that fee that I paid to the court.
If the court
the
orders
judgment.
it.
Yeah.
If the court orders
If the court
it.
orders it, and then you have to get them to pay. I mean, so I guess my question is, are you saying we're not charging enough for $30? You think?
I don't know what we should charge, is what I'm
I
saying.
guess-
Nobody does.
No,
So that's why I'm like, why am I passing something when I don't know if it's gonna actually solve the problem?
What if it's reviewed? I mean, they're trying to change it from 20 to 30 to not make it too much of an increase, to be hard on people, to penalize. I mean, it's a penalty for having a parking violation, but they're trying to do it in increments. They could revisit it after they look at this possibly to see if it does need to be increased to $50 at a later time. They're just trying to do something now to get things moving. Okay, so.
We discussed some of that when we had our meeting, and we looked at the costs and such. One of the things that came up from us as we were there was, perhaps we should let this go as we do it here. Okay this, run it through the summer and see how it's working. If it's not working, then we will readapt it in the fall or the following spring. But these people need to start somewhere,
Okay,
and this is what we're doing. This was we have nothing there. It was nothing. I looked at it. So I always ask what the 9/9s are. And we don't have any idea because we haven't done this. And we're trying, and from what I've talked with people who have had tickets, it's, yeah, it was my fault. And that's the last time, and that's what we have to look at. Is this working the way we set it up? If it's not, then it needs to be, as we did with something else earlier, revise it or rewrite it. And that's what we're kind of going on when we were talking.
okay. You know, the thing is that like, a lot of times we don't revisit issues, you know, and that's where my concern is. So like,
Bring it up yourself next year.
okay, I will. Because like, you know, like we never revisited some of the things that we had issues with.
Well, sometimes we revisit them by changing the ordinance, and you may not realize we've changed the ordinance you disliked as much as we did, because the whole verbiage has changed.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mrs. Hovis, to waive the 3 required readings. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Richard Morgan?
Yes.
Pat Hovis?
Yes.
Kathy King?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Avery Robinson?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The 3 required readings are hereby waived as to ordinance 4-25. Does council wish to take any further action as to ordinance 4-25?
Madam President, I move that we retain the emergency clause.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hovis. Any discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mrs. Hovis, to retain the emergency clause. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Richard Morgan?
Yeah.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Avery Robinson?
Yes.
Kathy King?
Yes.
Pat Hovis?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The emergency clause is hereby retained as to ordinance 4-25. Does council wish to take any further action as to ordinance 4-25?
Madam President, I move that we adopt this ordinance.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Any discussion? Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mrs. Hovis, to adopt ordinance 4-25. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Kathy King?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Richard Morgan?
Yeah.
Pat Hovis?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Avery Robinson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 4-25 is hereby adopted. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 5-25?
Ordinance number 5-25, an ordinance amending section 131.06 fee schedule for the services and return of writs and orders of the Port Clinton codified ordinance and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action as to ordinance 5-25?
Madam President, I move that we waive the third reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Hovis. Any discussion? We have a motion by Ms. Phillips, second by Mrs. Hovis, to waive the 3 required readings as to ordinance 5-25. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Kathy King,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Pat Hovis,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Richard Morgan,
Yes.
Avery Robinson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The 3 required readings are hereby waived. Does council wish to take any further action as to ordinance 5-25?
I move to retain, did we just do that? I forgot what we said.
That was
I
waived.
went ahead.
That was waived, right? Now we're on retain?
We're on.
Retain the emergency.
Okay,
Going ahead mentally.
okay.
Move to retain the
Is where you're
emergency
at?
clause.
Okay, by Ms. Phillips. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, second by Mrs. Hovis, to retain the emergency clause as to ordinance 5-25. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Pat Hovis.
Yes.
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Kathy King,
Yes.
Richard Morgan,
Yeah.
Avery Robinson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The emergency clause is hereby retained. Does council wish to take any further action as to ordinance 5-25?
Madam President, I move that we adopt ordinance 5-25.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Hovis. Any discussion? We have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mrs. Hovis, to adopt ordinance 5-25. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Avery Robinson,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips.
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Kathy King,
Yes.
Pat Hovis.
Yes.
Margaret, Richard Morgan.
Yeah.
And Beth Gilman.
Yes.
I got you.
I was a little worried, Sandy.
Thank you. Motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Can we be invited to the pre-council party next time?
Yeah.
Please.
I'm ready.
You guys take all the fun out of everything.
Yeah.
No.
Ordinance 5-25 is hereby adopted. Move on to first readings of ordinances 9-20. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 9-25?
Ordinance 9-25, an ordinance amending chapter 139, employment provisions of the city of Port Clinton, codified ordinances, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action as to ordinance 9-25?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms.
I have a question. We need to repeal ordinance 2-25 first, is
Should we
that
do that
correct?
first? Okay.
Madam President?
Yes.
I move we repeal ordinance 2-25.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Gilman, second by Mr. Truling, to repeal ordinance 2-25. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Richard Morgan,
Yeah.
Avery Robinson,
Yes.
Pat Hovis.
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Kathy King,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2-25 is hereby repealed. Okay. Does council wish to take any action as to ordinance 9-25?
Madam President, I move we waive 3 required readings for ordinance 9-25.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Drawing. Any discussion? Okay. We have a motion by Mrs. Gilman, second by Mr. Trolley, to waive the 3 required readings as to ordinance 9-25. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Kathy King,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips.
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Pat Hovis.
Yes.
Richard Morgan,
Yep.
Avery Robinson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The 3 required readings as to ordinance 9-25 are hereby waived. Does council wish to take any further action as to ordinance 9-25?
Madam President,
Mrs. Gilman.
I move we retain the emergency clause for ordinance 9-25.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion? We have a motion by Mrs. Gilman, second by Mr. Trolley, to retain the emergency clause as to ordinance 9-25. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Pat Hovis,
Yes.
Avery Robinson,
Yes.
Richard Morgan,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Kathy King,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The emergency clause is hereby retained as to ordinance 9-25. Does council wish to take any further actions to ordinance 9-25?
Madam President, I move we adopt ordinance 9-25.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion? We have a motion by Mrs. Gilman, seconded by Mr. Trolley to adopt ordinance 9-25. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Avery Robinson,
Yes.
Richard Morgan,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley.
Yes.
Pat Hovis. Kathy King.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 9-25 is hereby adopted. We're going to move on to business on the floor. Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, I just have one question. I hate to bring up the foot project, but I was talking to someone about 4th Street. Is that a next year thing?
It's part of the bid process that'll happen this quarter.
So we think it will take place in this calendar year?
Yeah.
And is it the entire length?
Yes.
And this is a major one. They're gonna dig like 5,000 feet deep and replace everything.
Yeah, just like you saw,
Infrastructure.
just like you saw in Madison and Second and Jefferson, it'll be a complete rebuild, the entire length of Fourth, from Washington Railroad Track south, and 7th Street from, if you knew where Dan Meisner grew up. East.
That road will be closed for a couple months, right?
I'm not sure of the construction process.
Then we're worried about how they're gonna get to their house. They'll just come on the cross streets, right? Is that what'll happen?
Yeah, but they'll have stone there and stone pile till they
I
drop.
told them that you would not forget that they have to go home.
Everybody's got to.
Okay, all
Everybody's
right.
got to.
We're not reinventing the wheel here.
I wanna watch,
They've done
and by
all
the
over
way,
place.
when you start digging, I want a personal phone call or text, because I swear those rails are still there, and I wanna watch them.
I live on 4th Street, I'll let you know.
You let me know, 'cause you can see those rail marks. I think they're there.
Like they're the trolley rails or what?
It used to be a
Railroad.
Interurban?
it was actually a cable car,
Yeah, like a trolley, right?
electric charged, and so, yeah. You can see where it goes across Harrison over to Fremont Road, so I think they're there.
He was growing up when that was.
Yeah.
Used to ride it
Did
to
you mow the
school.
lawn next to it?
No, but you can tell by looking at the boulevard, which
Yeah.
the north side is much larger, and those people love the big lawns, which I expect will be disappearing.
Why? Well,
Because they're, when they put the new one in, aren't they going to equalize a little bit of that land in the middle? They're not, they're just gonna let it, and that'll tick some people off. Oh, well.
No need to.
Well, but you notice that the boulevard is bigger on the north side, so the south side of 4th Street is shortened.
Yeah, but
Yeah, Taft is the same way.
why would they take the land away?
I don't think they assume it's their land, but is it? It's like with the Perry Street problem.
The right of way is the right of way. It doesn't change.
Is it marked?
What do you mean, is it not?
Yeah.
It's typically up to the sidewalks.
Yeah.
And in
Sticky
that
notes.
case, on 4th Street, for example, which I live, it almost goes up to my house. So the boulevard,
Oh.
the right of way is way wider than you think it is.
Good. Well, as long as it's done.
It will not change.
Okay, Mr. Robinson, anything? Anything else, Ms. Phillips?
Nope.
Okay. Mrs. Hovis?
Come on.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Trolley?
Nothing tonight,
Mrs. King?
Yeah, I just wanna say, like, the Arts Garage is currently under construction, like, people have moved out the artists have moved out temporarily. We're, replacing all the windows. So masonry is coming in to like redo, some of that, so keep an eye out, like, we don't know the exact date, but we should have a grand reopening probably in April. So keep an eye out for that, it's very exciting. And I also found out, like, because I'm a nerd and I like to look at my newspapers.com subscription, that like, Port Clinton first became a city in 1951, on September 5th, 1951. So I'll look up your cable car,
Okay.
because, like, the subscription I has papers back to the 1800s, so.
Was cable car named Richard?
Was it? A cable car named Richard instead of a streetcar named Desire? Gotcha.
Mrs. Gilman?
Thank you, Madam President. As we come on the 1-year anniversary of the short-term rentals, and this council had passed the registrations last year, Our state has again introduced legislation that would prohibit localities from regulating short-term rentals, such as legislation that we passed. The bill is currently in the local government committee phase, which is scheduled to meet tomorrow, Wednesday the 26th at 1:30 p.m. To oppose this bill, I would recommend, and I highly encourage all of my fellow council members as elected officials to contact Senator Teresa Gavarone, and I have her information, and ask her to oppose that before early tomorrow morning or tonight when you get home, because again, the regulations, the registrations that we did, this would take that away.
Does
And
it take away that tax?
besides work that we have to do, if we can't regulate them, I mean, I don't know, but I would just encourage. It did not pass before when it came up. I don't know what's gonna happen with it this time, but I would encourage you to oppose that.
I don't think it came out of committee last time.
I don't know, they killed it. They killed it, so maybe that'll happen again, maybe it won't, but I just think it's something that we can all do.
Those people, aren't they the ones that always preach small government? And so why is the state telling us what the heck we can do?
Didn't happen last time.
It was
I hope
also
doesn't happen.
sponsored by someone who had several rental properties up in the Mentor by the Lake area, so.
And Ms. Gilman, I believe that it's to prohibit having the short-term rentals. And I know
It's to prohibit us from putting any regulations on them, that people can do whatever they want with their property. We can't have registrations, we can't do anything.
Well, I know that the Ohio Attorney Association, the municipal attorneys, they heavily opposed the last one because under the Home Rule Authority, we do have the right to do that, so I'm sure there'll probably be another opposition to that.
There's a
as
lot of
well.
opposition to it, but they meet tomorrow, and I think it's good to let our senator know how we feel, so I would
Yeah,
encourage
for sure.
that.
What was the name of this bill?
It's Senate Bill 104.
Thank you.
And Ms. Gavarone does a very nice job at it.
So contact her. And that's it, nothing else, Madam
Okay.
President.
Thank you. Seeing no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam President, I move this august body adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, second by Mrs. King to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose the same sign.
Aye.
Thank you, we're adjourned.
Did you close our